You've spelunked into the Matt Cave. Hello, everybody, and thank you for spelunking on by. Happy New Year 2026. This one is going to be jam-packed with information, so the intro is not going to be that long. I'm just going to dive straight into things. And so let's start with that BYU defensive coordinator search. So when you're listening to this, the person will probably already be named, but these are my picks and for who I think should be targeted, as well as my number one pick that should get the call. And so BYU has options. This is kind of new. If we flash back to the Eli Issa Tuiaki firing, there wasn't much in the way of options. There was Jay Hill. There was a couple of in-house people that they could have gone with, but that was about it. Now, there's some pretty darn good-looking options out there. Sitake, golly, can be picky. He can go for it. He can do the safe option, which I really hope he doesn't do. Or he can just go out of left field and do somebody completely random. Also something I wouldn't do, but it's his prerogative. So I'm going to dive into these guys right now. So first off, for me, is Shaun Nua. Top tier swing. He has BYU roots, as do most of these guys, if not all of them. He has coached in major conferences. He coached in the Pac-12 as well as the Big Ten. The Pac-12, the original iteration, that is. He coached with USC. He is a wonderful recruiter. He won a Super Bowl in his professional career with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2006. He has co-defensive coordinator experience in a Power 5 conference, or Power 4 now, I guess. So he won't necessarily be learning on the job. And again, I'll say this. He is an almost elite recruiter. He's coached the defensive line, which has been, I don't want to say a weakness, but not necessarily a strength of BYU. And I think he would be a fantastic hire by Kalani Sitake. When I'm recording this on Sunday, January 4th, he seems to be the leader in the clubhouse as far as people reporting on this sort of stuff and people that are close to the program. But that doesn't mean he's going to get the job, right? So he is the number one, get this guy. I think he will be very good hire that Kalani Sitake can make. Next up is Vic So'oto. Yeah, this guy hasn't been generating terribly too much buzz, but I think he would be a good choice as well. He is already the co-defensive coordinator at Cal over in the ACC, which is really weird to say, and he is the linebackers coach there as well. So there's also another story in play here when it comes to this, is he can bring back Harrison Taggart, who transferred to Cal from BYU. And now that Jack Kelly is gone, there's a void in the linebacker room that can be immediately filled by Harrison Taggart. So Vic So'oto comes over. He brings Harrison Taggart along with him. Problem solved on two fronts. And I think it would be a really good hire. Vic So'oto has pro experience as well. He played for the Raiders. Not necessarily a feather in his cap, but he did play in the pros for a few teams. He was a first-team All-Mountain West Conference linebacker when he played at BYU. So he, I think, is a sneaky good hire. One that is on the lips of many BYU fans is Gary Andersen, former Utah State coach. He coached at Wisconsin as well as at Oregon State. He left Oregon State by mutual agreement. They just were 1-5, not really going anywhere, and they just decided to go in a different direction. And at Wisconsin, he won 10 games. He finished ranked with that team. So he could be a very good hire for the short term. That would be a Band-Aid thing if every other option is exhausted. Sitake isn't comfortable with any of those guys. He just turns to Gary Andersen and says, hey, can you fill in here for the next season or two while we find somebody, somebody younger, somebody that you can then help get up to speed. I think that would be the hire with Gary Andersen. That's very less flashy, very stale, and very safe. But he does know how to run a defense, and he does know how to run a coaching staff. He did very well at Utah State. He had a successful season at Wisconsin. Wasn't necessarily his team, though. It was a bunch of recruits from the previous regime, but, So that is the Gary Andersen piece. I thought I should call it out. I don't think that one's going to happen. I think that would be the emergency button. Break glass in case of emergency. Gary Andersen's there. But I don't think he's going to be the guy. Next up is Justin Enna. So that's a very quiet hire. He is a BYU linebacker legacy. He played in the pros for a while. He has defensive coordinator experience under Jay Hill while Jay Hill was at Weber State. He's also been the defensive coordinator at Southern Utah, so he has the chops to do it. He is a development-first coach. He's a good coach, not a great coach. He's not my top two. That would be Enna and So'oto. But he has good defensive pedigree. He's coached some good linebacker crews in his time at Weber State, Utah. So, could be a good hire. It could be. Lastly, this one I have to bring up is Kelly Poppinga, the current special teams coordinator for BYU. He is also the D-line coach, and he has previous defensive coordinator experience with Bronco Mendenhall at Virginia. He coached at Boise State for a season before he came to BYU. This one, Wikipedia has already said that he is the defensive coordinator. If that's the case, I really dislike the hire. I understand he did his time. He has been in the program for a little while. The special teams unit has been very solid. They have had Parker Kingston, who can be a fumble waiting to happen when it comes to his punt return duties. Same thing with Cody Hagan on the kick return unit. But the units overall have been solid. Will Ferrin last season, not this season, was an All-American kicker. This year he kind of fell apart a little bit. But overall, he's been a good special teams coordinator, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a good defensive coordinator. And I feel like this one would be a safe hire as well. And I don't think right now in the current landscape of college football, you can afford to go with the safe hire. If Kelly Poppinga says, if you don't give it to me, I'm going to leave, you say, all right, that's fair. I just think this other guy's better. Thank you for what you've done. You shake hands, part ways. No hard feelings. So that's what I have as far as who I think should be the defensive coordinator at BYU. I honestly think it should be Shaun Nua or Vic So'oto. If neither of them, then go with Justin Enna. But keep the coaching staff relatively young, guys who have pro experience, maybe even a guy who's won a Super Bowl, and you got something better there. So, but now let's move over to a team that's in flux, but they have their coaches all set up. So the situation is unstable. It's not dire. It's not the end of the world. This happens every time a legend leaves, whether it's by their own volition or due to cloak and dagger stuff, like, it is the case for Utah. And the transition, turnover, and new era is a very thin margin for error. Right now, as of me recording this, Devin Dampier is still on the team, so is Bert Ficklin. But the entire offensive coaching staff is basically gone, and they have a new one coming in from Utah State who had a very good offensive season. Kevin McGivern is walking into what could be a very good situation. He's got the quarterback. He's got a very good young receiver / tight end, J.J. Buchanan. So there is stuff to work with. Wayshawn Parker is a wonderful running back. It's just the offensive line is not very good, and that's the coach I want to key in on. Jim Harding is following Coach Whittingham to Michigan. That's a big deal. Great offensive line coaches elevate the entire program, as we all saw with Utah. 2 first-round draft picks that he developed into the monsters that they are. I think Jordan Gross is a good name hire. I don't know how he's going to be as a coach. Jordan Gross is an all-pro tackle, fringe Hall of Fame candidate for the Panthers, but I don't know. I mean, it's one of those prove it sort of things. The player departures, that's another big one to look at. Again, that's just how it works. The coach leaves, the players are going to leave. Hardly any of these kids, I would say 3% of these kids go to the college for the college. The vast majority of them go for the coach because the coach says, I'm going to get you into the NFL, or I'm going to get you playing time, or the boosters say, we're going to give you this bag of cash, come play for us. That's really what it is. So the player departures are huge. Obviously, the linemen, Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu, Logan Fano, all gone to the NFL. And then you've got and Lander Barton as well. He's gone to the NFL. But then you've also got guys like Smith Snowden, Teo Johnson, who have declared for the transfer portal. That's a lot to replace. And so new defensive coordinator Colton Swan has got a lot of work to do. Now, Smith Snowden and Teo Johnson aren't necessarily gone, but it would take a Herculean effort to get those guys back because they wanted to play for Witt. I don't know if they wanted to play for Scalley as a head coach. That just really is. So, Morgan Scalley reality, it's not how you want to start your head coaching career. He's been the head coach in waiting for forever. It's immediate pressure, and you don't have a ramp-up year. There's no time to settle in, especially with how the calendar works. As soon as he was named head coach, the previous one, took a lot of his guys with him, which is fair. And now he's taking some players away as well. I think John Henry Daly is going to be going to Michigan. Personally, the BYU fan inside of me would love to see him go back to BYU and Smith Snowden to go to BYU as well. That's not happening because Gennaro Guilford, the defensive backs coach at BYU, is going to Michigan with Jay Hill. So there's a lot of stuff in flux right now for both schools, but the bright spot is Jordan Gross returning to the University of Utah and being the O-line coach. Name cachet means something, and this guy played in the Super Bowl. This guy was an all-pro tackle, and he is a fringe Hall of Fame candidate. Would I vote for him? Yeah, I probably would, just because he's from Utah. But that would be why. I don't think he's like Bruce Mitchell level, and that's kind of what I look at for Hall of Fame offensive linemen. Orlando Pace is another one. But I would vote for him just because he's from Utah. But Utah isn't necessarily falling apart. It's falling apart a little bit. The safety net is gone. We're just going to have to see if Morgan Scalley can put up and do something very odd. All right. Quick Olympic shout-out. Clayton Keller officially named to the Team USA Olympic roster. He is going to Italy this February. I couldn't be more excited for him. It's a huge moment for Clayton Keller, obviously, but it's also a big moment for Utah hockey. We have an Olympian in the state that plays hockey. It's an awesome positive note to lean into as I go into the Utah Mammoth as a whole. They're the most inconsistent team in the NHL. Period. End of story. One night, they're beating the New York Islanders, who are second in the Metropolitan Division. I know, I didn't name the divisions. I think they're stupid, but hey, here we are. And so they beat the Islanders in New York on the island 7-2. 7-2. This is also the same team that can skate with Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche are 10-0-0 in their last 10 games, and I did the math on this. I did it, I double-checked it, and then I did it again with a calculator. The Avalanche have their goal differential is as good as the rest of the teams in the NHL that have a positive goal differential, minus the Minnesota Wild and Dallas Stars. It is the exact same as every team in the East, and I even threw in the Utah Mammoth for good measure. So this team can skate with that team. They've proven it. They beat the New York Islanders. They beat the Anaheim Ducks when the Anaheim Ducks were second in their division. Actually, no, when the Ducks were leading their division, they beat them down in their place. They've done this, and then they go the very next game, and they lay an egg. Against the New Jersey Devils, they lose 4-1. In fact, they would have been shut out if it weren't for Michael Carcone getting a goal late in the third period. So this team is the most inconsistent and frustrating team in the NHL, and it boils down to a few things. First, it's Nick Schmaltz. In November, he played 15 games. He scored 5 points. 2 of those 5 came in one game. Yeah, this guy is on the top line of the Mammoth. He plays with Clayton Keller. Why are you only scoring less than a third of a point a game? It isn't effort, it's volatility. You can't build playoff teams on volatility. You might have one guy who's volatile, who will sprout up and score a hat trick or score 2 goals in a game. That's huge to have in a playoff series. But you have to get to the playoffs first. And so the consistency matters here. And Nick Schmaltz is the king of inconsistency. So the line construction also needs to be looked at. I'm not saying fire Andre Tourigny, not even a little bit. But the construction of these lines needs to be looked at. Dylan Guenther leads the team in goals as well as points now. It's no longer Nick Schmaltz from that 7-game explosion that he had. It's Dylan Guenther and Clayton Keller leading the team now. Dylan Guenther needs to play on that top line with Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz. J.J. Peterka is still developing like Dylan Guenther, but Dylan Guenther is developing faster. And so you want to reward that by putting him on the top line. J.J. Peterka needs to be on a line that has more simplicity, where it's guys like Lawson Krause who will just dump the puck in, chase it, get everything set up, and then a goal might happen from that. That's where J.J. Peterka needs to play, with a Barrett Hayton and a Lawson Krause. Dylan Guenther has proven that he can play and he can score, and he's not afraid to have the puck on his stick when it matters. That is top-line material. So he needs to play with Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz. I really believe that. If you're not going to trade Nick Schmaltz, pair him up with Clayton Keller and Dylan Guenther and watch the team be better. Special teams accountability. The power play is 26th in the league, 16.1%. There was a stretch of games where they had a 1% success rate, and that one goal that they had was on a 5-on-3. So it doesn't even really count, you know? So that is terrible. Their face-off win percentage is 48.1%, good for 23rd in the league. Two guys are at or above 50%. I did some digging. The league average team, 16th in the league, is the New Jersey Devils. They have double that. They have 4 guys that are at 50% or better that take more than one face-off every 10 games or something. Because if you look at the stats, Liam O'Brien is currently sitting at 100%. He's done 2 face-offs. So I don't count those guys. And the broadcast has to be positive. Right? They're employed by Smith Entertainment Group that owns the Mammoth. So they have to be positive. They're saying they've been improving. You can't do worse. At one point, that power play was worst in the league. You literally cannot do worse. So if we had those numbers at our jobs, where we were worst at the company in something, we were the 9th worst at something else, we would either be put on a performance improvement plan, a PIP, that would then lead us to being fired, or we would just be fired on the spot. So I don't know why Blaine Forsythe still has his job. This team is not good when it comes to power plays. They are also not good when it comes to face-offs. They are not good when it comes to 6-on-5 in crunch time. That falls on him. He's the one in charge of that. John Madden, not the football coach, but the hockey coach, is in charge of the penalty kill and is one of the best in the league. It's 6th in the league right now at 81%. So there's too much Coyotes residue here. Too much. They need to shed pieces of that to reset the culture. Nick Schmaltz, Barrett Hayton, Blaine Forsythe, they need to go. Resets for all guys so that the residue of the Coyotes can be washed off of this team and we can move forward as the Mammoth. Because right now, the joke is continuing on. You can take the Coyotes out of Arizona, ... That needs to change. And if you remove 2 guys that were key contributors from the Coyotes, whose games haven't improved at all, that would be Barrett Hayton, chief among them, and Nick Schmaltz right behind him. They got to go. They have to go. If playoffs matter, comfort has to die. You have to make players uncomfortable. You have to make them play for their jobs a little bit so that they can reach that next level. Because when professional athletes get comfortable, they don't press. They don't go a little bit harder. And so you get this inconsistency that the Mammoth have. They get up for the big games. Avalanche, Wild, Ducks, Islanders. But then when it comes to a ho-humdrum everyday game, like a team like the Devils, who are also in the wild card hunt in the East, not so much. A move is required. Period. End of story. Speaking of moving, the Utah Jazz. They looked great against the Pistons and against the Spurs. But then when they play against the two retirement homes in the NBA, the Clippers and the Warriors, they just get flat out beat. It's incredible to me watching this. It looked like there was progress being made. It really did. You beat two of the best teams in the league. Awesome. You then go against the Clippers and then the Warriors, two retirement homes, and you look lost. It's getting old. It really is. So let's get to the roster truths here. We know what Lauri Markkanen is. He's a wonderful NBA player. He's not a number one, but he's a wonderful NBA player, an all-star, a guy you need to keep on your team. I am saying keep Lauri Markkanen. Walker Kessler is also a known commodity. I know he's out for the year due to knee surgery, but we know the kind of player he is. He is a rim protector who can get the ball in his hands and at least do something with it, which is a step above Rudy Gobert. Taylor Hendricks is fine. He's not special, which is kind of a bad thing because of how highly he was picked. When you are picked in the top 5, top 8, you are expected to be at least an all-star player. Now, the injury to Taylor Hendricks really threw everything off the rails. He's still coming back from that, so I'm not going to call him a bust yet. He's fine. He's not special. And then you have Cody Williams. Bust of bust. Let that contract run out. Part ways. See ya. And not anything worth keeping on your roster. Keontae George reminds me a lot of Donovan Mitchell, which is not necessarily a good thing, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. He's a volume scorer whose turnover numbers have come way down. That was my main bugaboo with him early in the season. And he's pouring in points, he's getting his assists, he's looking very, very good. Fringe all-star player. But again, why would you just run it back with the same player that couldn't get you past the second round of the NBA playoffs? That's the same kind of player. I don't know, we'll have to see. But the front office needs to pick a lane, man. They are tanking without direction. They are banking on lottery balls that have been proven to be rigged and against small markets. Small markets only get the top overall pick when there is no talent in the draft. That's just how it is. Small markets don't get gifted saviors. They have to develop them. And the development crew of the Jazz right now is not good. They were really good when it was developing a Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, all those guys. We know the names. I don't need to spout them again. But now, not so much. And so we look at this, and the front for the coach, Will Hardy, I fear might burn out from all of this losing. I know he signed for a while, which is fantastic. He is one of the best coaches in the NBA. He just can't prove it because of what the front office is doing. And they're losing without vision, and that wears the fandom down. It's worn me down. And so I just look at this, and it's just the office of nepotism. The office of basketball operations there at the Utah Jazz. They need to figure something out. They need to figure something out because right now the messaging coming from the Jazz is we're still working on it. And that's not good enough for me. You're professionals. You need to have vision and you need to have a direction. And counting on ping pong balls isn't good enough. Speaking of not being good enough, Real Salt Lake just sold Brian Ojeda to Orlando City Soccer Club for around $2 million. The initial fee is around $660-something thousand, but depending on performance as well as appearances by Brian Ojeda this season, that could go up to around $2 million. That's a big deal. You know what that does? Not even in a vacuum, in reality, it frees up money to sign Emeka Eneli, one of the good players that Real Salt Lake has. He's a very solid defensive midfielder. And Manchester City, Arsenal, all of those teams have proven that you need a good anchor midfielder to be able to perform well. Now, I'm not saying Emeka Eneli is on the same planet as Rodrigo or Declan Rice, but he is good. for the MLS. And so they need to re-sign him. Then you get your midfield stabilized. January window reality, though, is it's an in-season tax. The MLS is really the only professional league around the world that isn't playing right now. And so other teams are in season, they're looking for instant upgrades, and they're not looking to shake up their rosters right now for money or a promise of future consideration, stuff like that. And so there is a January tax when it comes to transfers. So I'm not looking for Real Salt Lake to be terribly active on the international market because buyers pay way more. Just ask Manchester United. They pay way more in January than you would in the offseason. But for MLS, that's not the offseason. That's the regular season. So I am glad the MLS is switching their calendar to match up with the rest of the world. Took them long enough. The Miller family, for me, though, I am watching them with laser focus over the next 2 seasons because I don't want to see you spend exorbitant amounts of monies on guys like DeAndre Yedlin who are past their prime, who only have name cachet because of what they did 10 years ago. And I don't want to see that. And then you jack up the prices like I fully expect them to do on tickets, concessions, parking, everything in between, maybe even on the air you breathe while you're in the stadium. But I'm really locked in and watching that. They need to find attacking help for Diego Luna. It has to happen. He cannot be the only one up there scoring goals like he was this past season. So there's got to be something there. And that's really where we're at with Real Salt Lake. Now let's move it on to basically AJ Dybantsa and company at BYU. Conference play is here, and AJ Dybantsa's production speaks for itself. 23 some odd points per game, 7 rebounds per game, almost 4 assists per game. The stats show you 2.1 assists or 2.1 turnovers per game. That's a little bit low because of how he performed against Kansas State, where he turned the ball over 7 times. I'm going to chalk that one up, though, to it being the first conference game in the Big 12 for AJ and BYU, this iteration of BYU, and being on the road. So I'm going to chalk that up as an aberration sort of thing. If it happens again, once is an aberration, 2 is a pattern. So we'll have to, I'll keep an eye on that. But this team's efficiency in scoring is among the best in the country. They have the best Big 3 in the country: AJ Dybantsa, Richie Saunders, and Rob Wright. It's not even close. Each of those guys averages at least 16 points per game. No other trio in the country has that. And these guys genuinely enjoy playing with each other. They really do. They like setting each other up for baskets. They like setting up each other for big threes. So it's really fun to watch the culture that Kevin Young has nurtured there, because it can be a very fragile thing, especially on a basketball team with young guys that want to play in the NBA. My concern is ball security, like I said. They were pretty loosey-goosey with the ball, and that's why Kansas State was able to hang around for much of that game. But it was a road game, first game of conference season, first game that really matters. So that's, something else. Another area of concern is the 8-man rotation that Kevin Young used against Kansas State, and it was really 7-man because Tyler Russ only played 4 minutes. Injuries explain a lot of it. I mean, Dawson Baker's out for the year with a knee injury, and then Kadeem Boop was out and might be out for a little bit. So there are certain guys that were slotted to have more minutes taken from the Big 3. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on. March depth does shrink. Last season, BYU was lucky. They were able to have a 12-man rotation. This year, it's down to like 8 or 9. If road play holds, the ceiling is massive. This team could run the table. It really could. But I'm just excited for what's to come for this team. And AJ Dybantsa is definitely a top 3 NBA draft pick, if not number 1 overall. And it's just fun to watch. Something that BYU has never really had. Fans will say, yeah, but we had Danny Ainge or Jimmer Fredette. They're not on the same stratosphere as AJ Dybantsa. So there is the first episode of the year, everybody. I hope you had a safe, wonderful New Year's. I hope this year goes way better for me, and I hope it goes well for you. and I will see you all next week when we spelunk back into the Matt Cave.